I am a. I wake up thinking about, and I go to bed thinking about. I wake up, I go outside, and all I think about is just raping people. But when Annika said, "You can be my orgy leader," hope was born. I felt like someone recognized my power finally. And that's when I decided to full port this community. And ever since then, my rise, within that community has been has been I mean has been for the most part, it felt natural. There it is. It felt like I was supposed to be here. What makes a Superman? Some would say the ability to overcome obstacles and create what he desires in a way that is beyond human capability. Or is it something as mundane as giving someone a cigarette? What makes a Superman? Some people say that what makes a man most super is his ability to help others in a way that exceeds mundane human capabilities. That's cool and all, but how would you even begin the task of becoming this North Star for people? And the answer is you have to do it yourself. You have to be your own superhero. And only when you've built this foundation should you extend it to others. This is like a love training ground that we're in, and it requires us to protect and build ourselves first. So when we help others, we don't spread more bullshit. What is a Superman but someone who is able to look at his reality and create what he wants? Becoming a hero for yourself doesn't always require some sort of grand saveness. Like it doesn't has even the little things can be grand. Even like buying a pack of cigarettes or eating a donut. It doesn't have to be getting a six pack and becoming enlightened. But these donuts and cigarettes are important because becoming super requires super means of emotional regulation. Not taking it too serious is an important part of creating gradual steps to your ultimate goal. You know, I knew the moment Annika asked me to be her orgy leader, this is where I needed to be. I just felt it was natural, like my rise in power. Um, and while I was, engaged in this community, I learned some stuff. I had my habits, I had my spreadsheet, I had my plan, but I couldn't do it alone. Essentially, I just didn't have the hope that I was cool enough to do it alone. I said, basically, just say like, why me? And she let me run up McDonald's coin, and I did the whole McDonald's Coin Marathon and climbed make climbed a mountain, dressed as Ronald McDonald, um, on her live stream, and it meant a lot, um, you know, and to show my gratitude. I'm in like a super unique position to give back. Annika has like an extreme case of schizophrenia. But I feel like I've come back to consensus reality from an even more extreme point, of insanity. You know, people see a hopeless case. I see her for who she wants to be, and who she is at her core. Someone who just wants to be a really good person, and someone who's actually stable. Um, I see a deep part of her that wants to tame her mind. And I see that she is capable and just needs to be pointed in the right direction. Part of my attraction to her is self-centered. I don't get many opportunities with like-minded individuals that can tolerate me waking up, walking outside, and the type of character, to my negative core of just wanting to rape everyone. Um, I feel like, you know, because she is so unique, she doesn't, I mean, because she is so unique, because it's an opportunity to show my skill and enhance my my skill within this love training ground. Um, that I have to attempt to showcase my mastery. Mastery in what sense, though? I feel like, specifically targeting, my taming of schizophrenia, it's to such an extent that it has now become an accelerant to enlightenment. Creating my own story, believing it, being able to modulate the belief center, of the brain to generate realness, gaining the capabilities of the mind to sort of gamify, the demons, the treasure, the hero. And I feel I can challenge her mind to push her at least in the same direction, building on the foundation that is Buddhist philosophy. You'd have a hard time finding any pill, any psychiatrist, any therapist that can rival those teaching when taking to the ultimate depth and incorporating that into your being. If I were a betting man, I would put all my chips on Annika being able to tame her schizophrenia in a similar manner to me. A lot of schizophrenics have this tendency to be very dirty. Rotten carcasses left in the sink, flies, maggots everywhere, trashed apartment. She has a very, tidy environment. This sort of kind of touches down that she's still here in consensus reality, and that there's still groundwork to be worked with. What I'm trying to say is that she's not far gone. Even an awareness of something disappearing is still an awareness of that thing, which is the foothold that I'm working with, that I'm re making her realize is making her realize that it's already still there within her. Maybe not exactly in the exact same way it used to be, but it's something that can be reincorporated and essentially reestablished as a new stable ground. A little bit about my case. It was terrible. I had to repeat the same thought for 20 hours a day, constantly pissing myself. I couldn't look at people because I thought they were all trying to kill me. I couldn't wear the color red or black because I thought those were evil colors. Um, I could only go to sleep via exhaustion because of the channels that regulate sleep and the transition of awareness into the dream state were fucked up. And every time I went to try and go to bed, my head would explode, or the channels would pinch and create like a chi bubble that would just feel like my head is exploding. Um, So yeah, I mean, I did that. I basically just exhausted myself for 2 months and just fought it out. Even then, I was still able to reemerge from coherent to coherency. You know, the techniques and all are a little bit nuanced, but I'll touch a little bit on it. Schizophrenia is all about linguistics. How so? Because what is I mean, if you want to get into it, our reality is all about linguistics, and you know, essentially they have to schizophrenics have to have their belief matrix challenged in such a way that causes them to deconfuddle their view of reality into something more stable and grounded. And specifically, the key word here is certain. A lot of, if you want to target and slow down schizophrenia, instill doubt, challenge the voices, the emanation, and the seriousness of it all. And in doing so, you create this sort of release of stress, a sort of lackadaisical environment that can suddenly give way to a pliability of the mental faculties, which create these hallucinations that are stemmed from the imaginative potential of the mind to slow it down and to sort of now churn it into a workable nature that can almost just be peeled away and discarded as just another phenomena of the mind that is arising and passing. Ta-da. You know, I feel like creating a culture where Annika wants to be suffer. I feel like creating a culture where Annika wants to be sober and is challenged in her worldview is the best way forward. Um, Now, while the plan sounds easier said than done, the path is not entirely safe. There's still this element of, she is someone who's actively viewing reality as people who can turn into demons instantly. I think I've done some work with that to try and reduce it, but it's still there. That danger's still there. Um, you know, Again, returning back to the not serious, really feeling the tactile sensation of your own body, and the emergence of that thought linked to your body and sort of relaxing it is a core to regaining stability and creating this spaciousness around the demonic voices, the suggestibility, the misaligned superstition, because even superstition can become out of tune. Essentially, schizophrenics are like very suggestible, and they look at their environment for things to be suggested onto. And taming this through breath and through mind body practices is essential to regaining sensibility. And a big part of it is I feel like for Annika is that, thinking that she is competent enough. I feel like she's been in an environment where people weren't earnestly challenging her. People weren't earnestly taking her serious. And even though, there's all this baggage, I want the problems, because, not only does it give me a way to showcase my mastery, but the love potential here is out of this world and can very easily go nuclear. And this doesn't happen often. And I feel like it's worth taking this opportunity to build with her, taming her through intense sex and love exploration, of our vulnerabilities and in ways that we've never even done before with anyone else. I think it's going to build a bond that will last a lifetime, and it's going to be worth watching, bro. And I'm here for it. In order to in order to maintain such an intense love interest, I need this, this sort of second wife. Not even necessarily an actual partner, or a second partner, but more. The thing I'm referring to is a second wife away from Annika. Not entirely away from Annika, but just something that I can cultivate on my own as intensely. Something to get the mental juices flowing in a different way. This is that qigong practice. This is my bodybuilding practice. This is my rock climbing. This is my yoga. And this is crucial for the stability that I'm after. Shout out my niggas. Shout out Young Trey. Shout out King Von. Shout out Lil Dicky. Shout out Annika. Peace on the Streets. Andrew. Damo. And Frank Yang. fucking all the goats, Padmasambhava, fucking all of the goats, bro. The candle guy, I don't know. You know if you're watching this. Life, liberty, and pursuit of love. Bah!